the revenues necessary to pay for all this stuff are already there in law, but you know, there's all the new, trickier stuff that they haven't done yet.
But it's certainly, again, not shocking that the legislature is going to push a $2 billion deficit from July into November after the election. I would not be surprised at all. I mean, based on what the Speaker has said, based on the position taken by a couple of John Sampson's senators, particularly Bill Stikowski, Brian Foley, I would not be surprised if we don't see this dealt with till after the November election.
Doesn't it leave a window open, though, for Governor Paterson to remain relevant? Because as long as this thing keeps hanging out there, that's as long as the governor can just sort of rail and say he's already left the door open, saying, well, I'm not above bringing you guys back in the election cycle. I don't care. I'm not running for re-election, so what do I care?
Oh, absolutely. You know, look, until the budget is done, and until there are no legislative issues left on the table, Governor Paterson is still the governor of this state and is still relevant as the governor of this state. He may be a lame duck in the sense that he's not running this year, but he has executive authority. This is still an executive budget state. And he has the ability to call them back during the election. He has the ability to force them to take certain actions.
Do you believe he will call them back during the election?
Yeah, I think he will. And I think this is very problematic for the Senate Democrats. I mean, as the Siena polls have found, the voter anger, there's a lot of voter anger out there, but the Republicans seem most vulnerable. Republicans in the Senate minority seem most vulnerable to the voter anger. If there's no budget, final, like the whole thing isn't done, if there's a revenue bill out there, then I think it shifts some of that burden to the Democrats who are upstate, because they're the ones in power, they're the ones who control both houses of the legislature and the executive, and they're the ones who can get tagged if the Republicans are smart with not being able to get it done and with being governmentally and fiscally irresponsible.
And if Bob is right, and we go back to another point you made earlier, it's an opportunity for Andrew Cuomo to have it both ways again, to say that he is the Democrat in charge, and that obviously he wants to see Democrats elected to the Senate, and he wants to have a Democratic Senate when he becomes governor, but to have the governor be calling them back to call attention to the fact that Democrats in the Senate didn't get the job done is an interesting place for Andrew Cuomo to be.
I floated this before, and I think it's terribly cynical, but don't you get the feeling like they all sort of get in a room and are like, okay, you force us to do this, and so we don't have to take the blame, and then, wait, why are you shaking your head like that?
When I was in the press corps, that's always what I thought. And then I got into government. And after about 3 months, I realized that there are not enough smart people with enough time in their hands to cook up all the things that I used to think was a conspiracy. And they just can't do it. Most of the time, it just sort of works out that way. And people are sort of game coaching as the thing goes on and adapt as events occur, and they wait for someone to screw up, somebody to fall down, somebody to make a mistake, and then they try to capitalize.
Do you agree with that? I need a tinfoil hat. That's essentially what he's saying.
I do agree with that, because I don't believe there's any way that you can get the Cuomo camp, the Paterson camp, the Silver camp, and the Sampson camp to get together to agree on a strategy that will help them all, because there's not a single strategy that helps all four players here.
And to be honest enough, in the room together, to not have it be some, cockamamie Mission Impossible deal where they all pull off their rubber masks and there's somebody else. Everybody in politics is playing games with the other people, even the people you can trust the least are often your friends.
Okay, well, you get the last word in this particular one. I want to thank you very much, Bob Bellafiore, Steve Greenberg, for joining me. As always, a freewheeling and quite informative conversation from babies to tinfoil hats. Okay, and we'll be back with one more final note and a look ahead to tomorrow's program right after this.